Okay, I was just going to make a video about Zion Williamson and thinking about if he gets injured from all his jumping, how his weight could just balloon even more. This guy's like 17, 18 years old. Incredibly humble and likable, by the way. It's going to be refreshing to cover college basketball with some of these smaller egos, and less of this, semi-billionaire oppression Olympics. But anyway, Zion Williamson, he's like 18 years old. He's already 285 pounds, guys. And he hasn't even gained his freshman 15 yet from that Duke cafeteria, And, sometimes guys are just, it's bone structure. I saw people in this Real GM thread convincing themselves casually, like, oh yeah, if he just gets down to 260, he's going to be great. As if an 18-year-old who's already relatively lean, who weighs 285 pounds, is going to cut down to 260 pounds, as if they're going to cut 25 pounds of muscle, more or less. They're not going to gain their freshman 15. The fact is, people aren't thinking about when an 18-year-old weighs 285 pounds of relatively lean. You got to look at the bone structure, those wide hips, those thick, heavy leg bones, arm bones, that are all capable of carrying so much weight and are already carrying so much weight. And if he's a lean 285 at 18 years old, he's going to be a relatively lean 300 pounds or even more by the time he's 21, 22. You add any fat to that, you're quickly talking about 320, 330, 340 pounds, guys. Easy. And because this guy is such a jumper, an amazing jumper, the odds of injury skyrocket because he can't really do anything else but jump. That's kind of his calling card, his jumping. So the odds of injury are sky high. The odds of his knees not holding up to carrying even 285, but once he gets up to 300, or say it's only 295 next year, say he only doesn't gain a freshman 15 but only gains a freshman 10, even if it's 285 though, those knees and that jumping and that play style, just like Kyrie Irving with his herky-jerky play style, and he's got that degenerative knee condition with the recovering fractured kneecap. He's going to have degenerative arthritis in that knee the rest of his life. Anyway, I bring Zaire Smith into the video because Zaire Smith suffers foot injury, okay? So Zaire Smith, a guy whose claim to fame was being like a 6'4", 190-pound power forward for Texas Tech. A guy who had great leaping ability that caught everybody's eye and makes people just lose their minds, fall in love with him, throw all rationality out the window, and convince themselves that just because this guy can jump high, that he has all this crazy untapped potential to be a good shooter, great ball handler, good passer, and do all this other stuff that he's never shown any evidence of doing before. But all because he can jump high, people think, and when you're a guard and your primary skills are power forward or center skills, like rebounding and blocking shots, that's a red flag. Just like when you're a big man and your claim to fame is just your ball handling or perhaps your passing, that can be a big red flag too. Like we saw with Dragon Bender, he had the fancy dribbles down when he was like 17 years old, remember? And everyone lost their shit. And everyone convinced himself he had so much potential, all because he had a couple fancy dribbling moves when he was 16, 17 years old, playing against these 5'9" guys in under 17 European competition, right? And even when he was pure trash in 2 years in Israel, everyone still convinced themselves Dragon Bender was one of, if not the top picks in that draft. And as I said on draft night, I think the 76ers totally blew it. I don't even think, what's his face? Brett Brown? I think Brett Stevens is a writer for the New York Times. Brett Brown, I don't even think Brett Brown made that decision. I think that was some egotistical owner from the 76ers making the Zaire Smith pick, pretending and making the sucker move, the rookie move, to believe that just because a guy can jump high, that he's got star potential. And I think that's what we're seeing with Zion Williamson, a guy who can jump really high. And what's star potential anyway? What's a star? Anybody who can dunk is a star. That's why Zach LaVine is a star, even though he's not really a star. Star impact. Aaron Gordon can dunk, so he's a star, even though he doesn't make star impact. And here we have another big dunker. So they're going to say he's got star potential, but the star potential is really about All-Star Weekend and some of these highlight films and maybe getting some votes for All-Star games or whatever, but real superficial, shallow understanding of the game. And this guy will definitely be a bulldozer, but from what I understand, he misses lots of layups even in high school, and nobody's being realistic about his weight progression and development and how he's naturally, inevitably, going to be heavier in the future than he is now at 18. He's not going back to his age 15 weight or whatever of 260 pounds, you know? Just like people thought that Jared Sellinger, who was always pushing 300 pounds, they always thought, oh yeah, if he just gets down to 260, he'll be great. He was never going to be able to do it. Jabari Parker, the same basic concept, guys. Some of these guys with this big bone structure, it's just never going to happen. Never had a chance of happening. How does a relatively lean guy lose 25 pounds of muscle and still be a professional athlete? Only times you see people lose 25 pounds of muscle is when they're preparing for an acting role like Matthew McConaughey in Dallas Buyers Club. Or some of these other movies where they starve and they're playing characters on hunger strike or something like that. Anyway, yeah, but he is a great kid. But anyway, I just want to say that his playing weight in the NBA, even if they don't report it accurately, is going to be closer to 300, 305, 310, 315. And as he hits like age 25, it could very well be 320, 330. And so an NBA comparison for this guy is probably something like Gersson Yabusele for the Celtics, okay? Now, this guy can jump a lot higher than Yabusele, but remember that Yabusele was actually a really good jumper just like 1 or 2 years ago. But Yabusele inevitably gained more weight as he filled out. And probably doesn't have the best work ethic either for Yabusele. But another thing is work ethic. When you weigh this much, and then when he gains even more weight, just working hard it takes twice as much work ethic to show a regular work ethic. And if you're not working twice as hard as everybody, you're gonna get soft weight. You're gonna add soft weight. You know, it's like sinking in quicksand. When you're built like this, it's kind of like sinking in quicksand. And if you're in the NFL and you're a lineman, you can deal with having 20, 30 pounds of extra weight because you only have to work in short bursts, short explosive bursts, and then you can catch your breath for 30 seconds. But in the NBA, it's not really like that. And, you know, what does Yabusele do? People thought people had high hopes for him. I was skeptical from the jump because I thought the Celtics really only drafted him because he was willing to stay in Europe or China, as it happened to be, for another year rather than coming right over to the NBA. That was the only reason they drafted him at 16. And as we see, the jump shots never come around with Yabusele. The passings never come around. He's lost his athleticism with his inevitable weight gain. And keep in mind, about 2 years ago, Yabusele physically looked almost exactly like Zion Williamson, okay? Relatively ripped, relatively chiseled, relatively lean, and, you know, probably weighed more than he looked. And this is a guy with just some serious bone density. You know, if you just looked at this guy, you might think he weighed 265, 270, you know, but it's just pure muscle, and it's weighing 285. Anyway, it's the same deal with Yabusele. What you're ultimately going to get is a really big guy who takes up space, who doesn't have good lateral agility, who can make some big dunks once in a while, but is otherwise going to be a 6'6", 6'7" power forward who's not going to be able to block shots, Not going to be able to rebound at an elite level. Not going to be a good passer. Not going to be a good shooter. Going to be a shaky finisher around the rim. And what do you ultimately have but a few occasional dunk highlights? Anyway, too bad because he's such a nice kid, but I don't think he's a top prospect by any means. And as he fills out, as he grows up, he's just one of these guys who may sadly be out of the league by 27, 28 years old, unless he has an incredible work ethic. And we will see, but in any event, he's nowhere near a top prospect in my opinion. And it's just sad because his body just not quite built for basketball. Just like some of those, shorter Steve Nash type players, they might be awesome in college, Jimmer Fredettes or whatever, but maybe they're just not quite built for basketball. But this guy could definitely obviously be probably some kind of NFL star. I don't even know what position he would play. Defensive lineman. Anyway, he'll make some millions in the NBA, and he will put on a show in the dunk contest, and he will probably suffer much less brain trauma than he otherwise would in the NFL. So don't feel sorry for this guy. He's got it made. All right, guys, let me know what you think. But anyway, these guys who their big skill is jumping, that's always a red flag. Always a red flag. Whether it's Zion Williamson or Zaire Smith for the 76ers, who is now injured and may very well be the next 76er rookie to be out for summer all of the year with that 76ers rookie curse. But hey, he'll always be eligible for Rookie of the Year next year.